Hi there, I'm Doug Irvine, and welcome back to a special edition of the Property Particulars podcast. Can you believe this is our 21st episode that we have recorded? And today, newsflash, a very special episode. I would like to welcome to the podcast our very new managing partner, Mr. Tom Alder. Tom, welcome.
Hi, Doug, and thanks for having me. Privileged.
Yeah, well, thank you for coming up to London. Don't be a stranger, you never are. You're up here quite a lot. And you are a fresh, new managing partner.
I am. This is week 5.
Week 5. At time of recording, we are on week 5. Okay, cool. We'll get on to your managing partner status in a little bit. But a bit like all of my guests that I've had so far on the podcast, we like to talk a bit about your journey to law, your journey to LA. So let's start. Let's go way back. Before you even thought about Leicester Aldridge, LA, did you study law? Did you go straight into law? Did you come to it later?
No, straight into law. So I'm a Bournemouth boy, born and bred.
Okay.
Went and read law at Southampton.
Okay.
LPC at Guildford. I think quite a conventional route. There's quite a lot of people at LA with a slightly similar pathway to mine. And then turned up as a trainee in Leicester Aldridge 2005.
2005. So this is the 20th anniversary as well.
This is my 20th year.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. And so did you always want to be a lawyer?
If I'm really honest, at age of sort of 13, 14, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. And certainly in my school days, when you hit year 9, the school organised a sort of work placement for you. To get onto the placement, you had to go through this sort of software which took you through a multiple choice selection of questions to determine what career suited you best.
Yeah.
And law was number 1. So I thought to myself, well, trust the software.
Yeah.
So I did a vacation scheme at a firm called Steele Raymond, actually in Wimborne.
Okay.
And it all went from there, really, and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I enjoyed the combination of dealing with people and also the sort of intellectual side of the problem-solving aspect of law. And from there, that was planted in my mind, really, and that was my journey.
Fabulous. I mean, that's such a better answer than a lot of people. And for me, I always laugh because sometimes when I get asked that question, I did a literature degree, and then basically my parents said, why don't you do law conversion? And I just thought 2 more years at uni. So that's how I am. That's literally why I am a
student
lawyer.
life.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay, so then you decide to start applying for jobs, and LA was your first job?
It was, yeah. So I decided that I wanted to stay working in a sort of regional firm rather than going for sort of city law, if you like. And yeah, was lucky enough to, in those days, the training contract application process was all paper driven. And so you used to get these cards sent out to you by law firms in the mail. I don't know if you had this. And you could sort of tell by the thickness of the envelope whether it was a rejection one-liner or a something more substantial and exciting.
Okay.
So luckily enough, LA said yes.
Amazing.
And
you
yes,
arrived.
September 2005, fresh-faced trainee Tom turned up.
And I mean, I know the answer to this because I've heard some insider information, but what was your first seat?
Well, Doug, it was, I can confirm, it was residential property sitting under the tutelage of a Mr. John Townsend.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, this is just a perfect scenario for our Property Particulars podcast.
Yes.
So you went in, and actually what I say to all our trainees and paralegals that come through residential property is, it's such an amazing first seat or learning for whatever you might then go on to do. And we've had trainees and paralegals come through to go on to corporate, different firms, but you get a lot of exposure. Did you get that back then as well?
I learned a huge amount of transferable skills because from day one, you're managing files, you're dealing with clients directly, you're working as a team. You're getting used to, frankly, getting used to office life. But certainly, yeah, the from a skills perspective, the hands-on experience I had from day one, and particularly in the residential market where the clients, for them, it's their most important thing in their life at that time.
Yeah.
And learning the skills of managing expectation, of delivering bad news sometimes, or of telling them things they don't want to know necessarily, but also being able to translate legal issues in a way they can understand and appreciate what the impact is for them.
Exactly.
I mean, I've taken those with me in all the roles I've had since.
Okay, cool. And so that was your first seat. Can you remember your other seats that you did?
I absolutely can.
Let's run through them.
So having done residential property, as we do now, we had a partner who sort of coordinated the trainees and the allocation of the different 6-month seats. And I remember sitting down with her, and she said, "Oh, what would you like to do next?" And I said, "Well, actually, I really don't mind, but I'd really rather not do another real estate seat."
Yeah.
And lo and behold, I got put in real estate planning.
Okay.
In Southampton, and I have to say, I turned up on day one with a slight sense of dread that I wasn't quite prepared to do a whole year of my life in a sort of property related seats, but actually ended up loving it. And planning wasn't something I studied at any real detail at university or law college, so it was a completely fresh area of the law for me, and I ended up loving it.
Right.
And I'm sure we'll talk more about planning in a bit, but and then my third seat was then completely different. I went to do insolvency and restructuring, which again I enjoyed, and it was useful to have that sort of slightly more corporate perspective. Learn a bit more about the corporate world and those aspects of because frankly, even in what was my day job in planning, most of my clients are companies, and so it's important to have that grounding. And then ended up coming back into planning for my final seat.
Okay. Which that happens quite often. Sometimes people go back to the seat they want to hopefully qualify in.
Exactly. At that time, I was doing a slight hybrid of planning and some sort of real estate development, more sort of the land side as well. So it was and some construction actually.
Okay.
So it was variety was the spice of life. And it was that exposure to the variety that really sealed the deal for me. That was the area I wanted to qualify into.
And I suppose actually when you're saying that, your path there is not dissimilar to mine, because I actually did development acquisition work first of all for a long time. But back then in the early 2000s to mid 2000s for you did do a bit of, so there was like construction and planning and real estate kind of, you crossed over. But then as we grow as a firm, like as LA did at that time, those teams get separated out because actually they find their strength and they grow. So
absolutely.
How did the growth of the planning team then progress from when you were qualified?
Yeah, so I mean, when I qualified into the real estate development team, this was 2007. We had just started actually separating out development as a practice area in its own right, I suppose, or a team in its own right. At that stage, I suspect there are probably about 5 of us. Real estate development now is about 40 of us, so it's grown exponentially in the time I've been there. And similarly in planning, when I qualified to do planning, there were 3 of us, which quickly became 2 of us. Nothing personal against me, I don't think, but and planning and infrastructure, we're now on an 8-strong team. So. Right. And I think the reason we've grown and why we developed in the way we have is certainly in planning is seeing the value of that niche expertise. We're quite rare in having a planning team of the size we have, which sits outside London or Bristol or Manchester or one of the real sort of legal heartlands, if you like. Yeah. And I think what changed it for us was switching the mentality from seeing ourselves as almost like a support function to actually seeing the value of having that niche expertise in its own right and going out to market the fact that actually we can offer something that a lot of law firms can't. And actually what we found was we were able to lean on having that niche expertise as a way of actually bringing in work for the wider team. So we use planning as an in for the house builder market, and actually, having got the planning instruction, we could then introduce them to the wider team, to the land acquisition side, to the construction side, to the infrastructure side, to the plot sale side at the end, and really offer them that sort of cradle to grave service. So that was the real switch for us, is moving from what was seen as a sort of additional function to actually really showing us that specialism in its own right was a really valuable marketing and BD tool.
Again, not dissimilar to us in Res Prop, where actually our clients can be directors of companies, they have different roles and jobs. And actually, when we get to know our clients really well, we speak to them, we realize actually we can offer them other teams within LA, and, we refer jobs across the team, which you guys do as well. All right, carrying on with your LA journey. So did you then go through getting to associate, and when did you become a partner?
So I became a partner about 10 years ago.
Okay.
I can remember very clearly because it was confirmed I was a partner about a week before my first daughter was born.
Okay.
So the anniversary as well was quite fresh in my mind. And like most lawyers, partnership was something that you've always thought about as being the sort of pinnacle of your career.
Yes.
I can still remember the sort of excitement when I was given the news. And a bit like my current role, actually. Initially, it felt a bit surreal, but then really enjoyed having that voice and that input ever since. Really.
Yeah. And we have a lot of partners across real estate and property in total, and a lot have been with you through that journey, which is also a nice thing, isn't it?
It is.
Familiar.
It makes you feel old, but
Yes.
we're now so we've now got partners in real estate development who were trainees with me, and I say I'm an LA lifer. We have a number of people who've spent either all or a significant part of their career with us, which is what we want.
Yeah, it's lovely,
and it's really pleasing for me to see them on that journey going all the way through, and actually. Normally, and I'm sure you've found this with people you've mentored and trained, generally you can see the potential of people far quicker than they can in themselves.
Yeah, that is true.
And it's really pleasing for me to see that potential being realised.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, carrying on a little bit with the growth of the planning team. So now we have... I'm going to talk about London office because I'm based in London office. But, fabulously, we have 2 planning lawyers now here in London, which has happened quite recently. And that growth is so lovely to see for your team across a couple of offices.
Yeah, and it's so for us, so Sabre and Henry spend most of their time up here. I think it's fantastic for us to be able to offer that London-based service. And it's also fantastic that we have the London base to be able to actually attract the likes of Sabre and Henry to come and work with us.
Yeah.
And for them, as with others in London, they're getting the best of both worlds. They're getting that really hands-on experience, but with all the benefits of being located where we are by the banks of the Thames behind the Savoy Hotel. So it's nice. It's fantastic.
It's nice. It's a great addition for us and a kind of support for us and our team, especially because the planning team sit in the same room as us as residential property downstairs. We are always we'll be looking at search results or anything planning based on our transactions, and actually even just to have them as a sounding board. Sometimes there's a slight barrier when you think, I want to speak to somebody, but they're in another office. Not too much between our offices because we all travel between, but it's so lovely to just shout across to Saba, can you come and help me with this problem?
and I that's one of the aspects of our team I've always tried to really embed is, and what I learned actually from the time when I was doing some real estate work alongside the planning is, it all actually sits together. And what I'm really keen on promoting is that the likes of planning and construction to a certain degree, that we use that expertise at the initial stage actually. So you take a development contract in your old days.
Yes.
Actually we spend lots of our time working with land acquisition teams, making sure that we're sort of preempting any issues that might arise in the planning process later down the line and addressing those at the time of the contract.
Yeah.
So that we're actually proactively anticipating issues rather than having to react when something goes wrong later down the line.
Yeah.
And I think again, to have planning lawyers sitting with you, that you can brainstorm those sort of issues through at the time. It makes a huge difference.
Yeah, it's so important. And we have even at time of speaking, we have a current job that I've just passed across to them where we're buying a property. There's a lot of planning issues on that property. It's a really high net worth value property, and our client is so happy that we were just like, oh, we have the expertise here, so we're just cracking on with it, and it's great that we can work as a team with Dabbit and Henry on that.
Absolutely, and planning, it touches so many aspects of a property transaction. It's not just the classic looking for the decision notice. It can be anything from listed buildings to protected trees to conservation areas, issues with community infrastructure levies, historic 106 agreements lying around there. There are so many ways, and to be able to offer that expertise to our clients it's a huge benefit.
Yeah, exactly. And internally, we've had a few training sessions already by the planning team. It's so important because we are lucky in LA that we have so many different strands of property teams, but we all chat to each other. We all train each other in a way and get updates from each other. So yeah, it's a really useful thing to have. All right, thank you. Enough on the planning team. You'll be like, phew. What I ask every guest that comes on so far is a bit about your personal property particulars, the name of the podcast.
Yep.
So have you bought and sold houses before for yourself, for your family?
I absolutely have.
Yeah, what? Has it gone well? Was it stressful? Can you remember? Has it been recent?
I've bought 2 new build proproperties and now live now live in a 1930s house. So which needed quite a lot of work done to it. So I've come across most issues you might come across in a property purchase. So my first property I virtually bought off plan.
Yes.
And that was my first introduction to the conveyancing process as a client, because I completed that purchase about a month before I started at LA actually, so it was interesting having sat as a client to then go and sit in the client facing and realising actually how rubbish the lawyers I had were, which weren't LA for the avoidance of doubt.
Excellent.
Because that we had, it was what I suppose I hadn't appreciated until that. The layers of complexity with new builds, particularly when you're exchanging before they're finished, and sometimes what a developer's version of completed is versus what my view of completed was, and snagging and all of the things that arose from it.
Yeah, that is. I've done one new build off-plan purchase as well. And actually, John was my lawyer for that.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
He said, no, he said I was the most stressful client ever. So when is this going to get done? But yeah, it's a different ballgame to then buying a older house.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, and I now, despite the fact I spent my professional life delivering new build housing, I do actually live in a 1930s house. And again, that was a real learning for me because it clearly then came a lot more down to looking at surveys and looking at condition. And ensuring that what we were buying was actually sort of fit for purpose, really.
Yeah.
And there are a few niggles along the way, but I love it. And in fact, I've now gone the whole way through because I've now just finished doing a 2-story extension on it. And because I'm such a good planning lawyer, I had to go to appeal to get the planning permission for it.
Amazing.
So that's been a bit of an epic journey in itself. Okay. But we bought the house with a vision. And as of last year, it finally got completed. So it's been that's been about a 7-year journey in total from buying.
Wow! And presumably, then, if you finish that work, you're staying put for the time being.
We are staying. Yeah, my wife wrote mummy saying. So I've got 2 girls, 10 and 4. The very fixed plan is that we are staying there until the girls move out, and then we're off to go and live in a flat by the beach. So,
fabulous! Fabulous.
We're not moving again. No.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. And then on the subject of property particulars and personal property particulars, I also know that you were really involved in the Southampton office move. So
I was.
So you saw kind of a commercial move, and that's a total different perspective.
That again was a huge learning experience.
Yeah. And how long was that process from when you actually, because I think that probably started when so I've been here 6 years when our team came back, and I remember at partners conferences then there was possibly not long after that there was this beginning to talk about it.
Yeah, I mean certainly from first looking to see what was around to moving in, it was definitely 18 months, and I suspect probably slightly more than that in terms of the thought process.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was a whole different set of learning and skills that I didn't know I'd need. Really interesting.
Yeah.
The real challenge with it was fundamentally altering the way we were going to work in Southampton, where we came from a building where we were split over 3 floors essentially, to moving to a single floor plate.
Yeah.
And because we hadn't, as a firm, we hadn't moved for, I don't know, to a new permanent office for over 20 years.
Yeah,
It was.
wow.
It's also feeling the hands of pressure upon me. Thankfully, I had Vicky Dickerson, who works with us to sort of, who probably did far more of the day-to-day than me, if I'm honest. And so between us, and it was really handy to have each other as that sort of sounding board. What we did do was make sure that we gave everyone the opportunity to feed back their thoughts and views about what the new office should look like.
Yeah, that's important.
Functionality.
Yeah.
How we're going to use the space. And input into look and feel. Mm-hmm. We then really went to town on breakout areas and focus on collaboration. Fundamentally, the big benefit of single floor plate, and you've got it in London as well, is the fact that speaking to other people in different teams and different skill sets is effortless.
Yeah.
And we really wanted to really go to town on that and make sure we offered as much of an easy access to facilities to enable those sort of collaboration discussions, teamwork as we could.
Yeah.
So, and I know you've got an LA cafe in London as well, but we designed the LA cafe, so it's a huge breakout tea point area, loads of different types of seating, some formal, some informal.
Yeah.
And within no time at all in Southampton, everyone was automatically going there at lunchtime to sit there, and it's those sort of informal conversations actually that prove to be the most valuable generally.
Yeah, I think
just talking about what people are doing for their days, working out, going back to your point about internal referrals and thinking about other teams and expertise which is hugely important to us as a business.
Yeah.
Actually, those natural, relaxed conversations are the best source of that sort of activity.
Exactly. When we have partners conferences and we have the drinks at the end, that's when that stuff happens. And actually, you're completely right that I see that here in London when people are in the LA cafe here at lunchtime after work as well.
Yep.
And there's people from different teams all chatting together, which it's so nice to see. It's so nice to see.
And the other aspect we wanted to really focus in on was also the look and feel, where we wanted to give the space personality. So we didn't. I think there was a slight fear from people that they were going to turn up to basically something looking akin to more of a sort of call centre type look, and we wanted to make sure there was real life there. So we've gone very plant heavy, as you have in London. Got a whole range of colours, different furnishings, just to really make it feel. Homely is not quite the right word, but certainly giving that, it's not just a functional workspace. It's got some real life and character to it.
No, it's lovely, and I mean, if I'm honest, I don't travel to the other offices as much as I should, and there's a reason for that because John does that, and I'm one of the partners that's constantly here every day in London. But my first trip to the Southampton office was just 2 or 3 weeks ago,
I remember, yeah.
And it was so lovely, and it was so nice to actually then see it in place and picture it, and everybody was so friendly, so it was a nice day out. Okay, we're going to finish that section before we move on to the big one, the managing partner bit. Again, we do a little couple of fun quick fire ones to finish off that section, which we've done with other guests. So what is the most interesting transaction legally that you've worked on?
Ooh, good
Any
question.
juicy ones?
So I did, when I was a junior lawyer, I worked with a legendary partner called Roger Woolley, who's still here. And he was doing a transaction which was actually an agreement for a film which Richard Curtis was directing.
Ooh.
In land controlled by one of our clients. Completely different. And I didn't, but Roger got to meet Emma Thompson at the end. So
amazing! That's pretty cool.
So that one
That's
certainly
definitely
stands
up
out.
there. That's definitely up there. Okay, my next quick fire question, which is a good one, which we always hear rumours about. But what is the best pub to go to in Southampton? We hear there is a drinking crew.
The Cricketers, without a doubt.
The Cricketers.
We've been going there for 20 years.
Okay.
And actually, after 20 years, we are finally, I think we are the only people they now reserve a table for on a Friday.
Amazing.
Which there's something about the level of custom we give them, I suspect.
Yeah.
But,
Amazing. I love it.
I think it's really important for I've always enjoyed going to the office on a Friday. And one of the main reasons is it is the time you can actually just have that time out of the office.
Yeah.
And just, it's hugely important as a team that we do that and give the opportunity for people just to sort of step away from their desk and get to know each other better.
Exactly. I'm always one for for us in residential property, we're quite often all in on a Friday because it's completion day. And we've been here at our new London office now for 7-8 months.
Yeah.
And we're slowly working on the Savoy tap across the road to be our local. We're not quite in there with the friends behind the bars yet, but it's probably because we've gone through winter season, but now everybody's out on the pavement drinking, so we'll be there for sure tonight, I think. So yeah. All right, cool. We're going to move on to the big section now.
Okay.
Managing partner.
Yes.
So you are our new managing partner. 5 weeks in,
Yes.
time of recording. How's it going?
Quickly is how I'd say. It's funny, we were chatting just before this, and I think you were surprised it was only 5 weeks, and I think I am as well, to be
Yeah.
perfectly honest, because it does actually feel much longer already. It's been. I mean, it's been beyond a baptism of fire, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
Been really interesting because, as I say, I've been here 20 years. I have what I think was a fairly good, awareness generally of how things work, but it's completely different sitting on the other side of the desk.
Yeah.
And it's
Does it feel like you've gone somewhere for a new job?
very much so.
Yeah.
But then all the people in the building are the
Are
same,
the same,
and
yes.
that's a surreal element of it, really.
Yeah.
Is I'm sitting in the same sort of meetings I used to do, but from a different angle, and
Yeah.
yes, it is almost like looking down on yourself in a way. But really enjoying getting stuck into it.
And do you think it's going to be like a good 6 months before you're like know what you're not know what you're doing? That's maybe the wrong word.
Well, no, I think it's quite a fair one.
Yeah, okay.
It's difficult. I don't know if there'll be a magic day you
Right.
ever. But to be honest, I've always felt that as a lawyer. I don't know if you feel the same, but you
true,
sort of
yes.
you always think this magic day you're going to wake up and know everything, and I don't think you ever do, because there's always something going on. There's always a new issue or a new challenge or a new opportunity.
Yeah.
And you continually learning in life and developing, and I suspect the same will apply. To be honest.
Yeah, exactly. And so if you go back to 2005 as John's trainee, did you ever think, I'll be managing partner one day?
No. I mean, I always knew I wanted to strive to be a partner, and that was very much was always on my ambition
On the
list.
radar, yeah.
And so I became a partner 10 years ago. I joined the senior leadership team about four years ago, I think. And I've the sort of, as I've progressed through, I've just really enjoyed and really found it fulfilling actually getting involved and having an input into how the firm works, initiatives. So as you know, I've been quite heavily involved in the people side of the business for a number of years. So I've been involved in graduate recruitment. More recently, been doing a lot of work as the partner sponsor for talent. So looking at career development, career progression, making sure that people feel and can see that there is everyone has a pathway for them here.
Yeah.
Everyone has a means of developing and progressing with us. I think it's hugely important, and I find it hugely rewarding.
Yeah, I think those two areas, the graduate recruitment and the talent, I think they're such an amazing background to becoming a managing partner. Like, it's so important to have done those or been involved in those committees or schemes.
Yeah.
Because if that is the future of the younger ones coming through.
100%. We put the effort into the graduate recruitment process, for example, that we do, is because we want to recruit the future partners. We want people to spend their career with us. Look, there's always room for improvement. That's the way life works. But I am still here because I've always felt that I've had a voice, that I'm listened to, and that I have had some influence over the direction that my career progression has taken, and that's very much what I want everyone to feel.
Yeah, exactly. So you've been around all of our offices already, chatting to staff in a kind of a roadshow environment, which was greatly received. And where are you going to be based?
I am quite deliberately not having a permanent office or desk, to be honest. I'm essentially going to spend my time on permanent tour.
Okay, I love that.
Because fundamentally, I want to be out there seeing as many people as I can, but also I want to give anyone the opportunity to come and talk to me, and I want that to be an easier mission as possible. And it's again, so I've now completed sitting on every single floor / office in the firm, and it's been fascinating.
That's interesting.
In my sort of work life pre this, there are clearly some teams and areas that I knew better than others.
Of course, yeah.
But it's been really interesting and rewarding sitting amongst all sorts of different teams and meeting and interacting with people I just haven't had the chance to properly before. And it actually, it's amazing how many great people we have. And I'm constantly surprised actually by the people we have, the great initiatives people are doing, the ideas they've got, innovations we're looking at. It's been really interesting.
I think that's a really important thing. And actually, now that as you've just said that to me, I think you've probably been, since you've been managing partner, I think you've been up to London 3 or 4 times now that I can remember. You're sitting in our room today with the residential property team. You've sat in we have a real estate office room in London. You've sat in there before, so it is great that you are getting amongst it. I definitely know from previous law firms that I've been at, where myself and other counterparts, we would have never spoken to the managing partner ever. It was like a figure.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, and it's so nice not that we're not that.
So one of my abiding memories of starting at LA was that we had a sort of the new trainee batch had a meeting with the then managing partner.
Okay.
And he made me a coffee. And I frankly was coming into law thinking I spent my first sort of 6 months pushing the tea trolley around and, and doing whatever was asked of me, really. Yeah. And the fact that he saw me as that completely level playing field from day one, it's always resonated with me. And that is exactly what I am trying to convey. I don't like hierarchy. And I want to be there sitting and being approachable, and people feeling that if they've got they've got a view or they've got an opinion or they've got a thought, that come and share it with me. I want to hear it. Good. I like that. How many managing partners have you seen in your time here? So 3, 4, 2. So I am the fourth. Right. Okay. Three previous incumbents. Okay. So, which isn't that many over 20 years. No. So it's got quite a lot of pressure to make sure that I deliver as well as they have. No, it is. It is a bit of pressure, but you're doing great already, and I'm sure you will do. And what made you go for the role? So for those that don't know, I mean, everybody in the firm knows, but you can put yourself forward, and then there's a bit of a process that we've already gone through. But what was the thought behind it for you? So it goes back to what we were saying about the people side. Really, as I say, I've been increasingly involved in various aspects of the firm. Mm-hmm. Fundamentally, I love LA, which is why I've been here my entire career. And I suppose for me, I couldn't turn down the opportunity to actually then be able to sort of direct the firm in some really exciting times ahead. We're in a fantastic place, but I think there are some really exciting opportunities out there, and to be able to actually have the chance to sort of set the direction that the firm's going in was 2 good opportunities to turn down for me. Good stuff. Tom, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast. Maybe we'll check in in another year or so and see how we'll do an update. Yeah, we'll do a managing partner Property Particulars podcast update. Thank you for joining us on this special edition of Property Particulars podcast, and look out for more episodes and the next season coming later this year.